So in this video, I'm going to be talking about my training, the early years of bodybuilding, throughout the stages when I moved to America in Venice, upon meeting Mike Mentzer and before all that. So let's talk about that. That's right. What's up, guys? Back. Prost, we say in German. So what I want to talk about right now is the actual training regimen I started lifting weights with. I mean, what was my actual workout look like? What did it look like back in the days? I trained since the age of 16, as far as I remember. I was 16 years old, 15, 16 years old. I had my first competition when I was 17. No, let me take that back. Yeah, 15, 16. Yeah, 17. Yeah, first competition 17. I took some pictures of myself at the age of 14, and I was living. My mom still. If money was tight, I couldn't go to a actual gym, plus I was too young for that. There was a local YMCA, which is where most kids went to, and they were either doing some martial arts, soccer, basketball, and there was a weight room. Now, at that YMCA, I remember there was a wall with all kinds of illustrations of different exercises from, typical compound movements and all kinds of free weight exercises, illustrated by this, cartoonish like looking guy. And I was looking at wall every time I went there, and I looked at all the exercises. My goal was to do all of them except legs. I didn't do legs because I felt like my legs were naturally already big from all the BMX stuff that I did before. I used to ride a lot of BMX bikes and all that, so that was kind of my childhood. There was a good genetic already there, and I didn't want to have those big legs without the upper body, so I wanted to catch up with that, and get a little bit chest, get some arms going, so the chicks, at the pool look at me more, and it was really about that. It was about, being recognized. That was my main goal. So I would work out maybe 5 days, 6 days a week, with these exercises. I would do probably 4 or 5 sets per exercise. I'd probably do a total of 25 sets that day, maybe 30. Yeah, things grew, of course. Anything grows at that age, doesn't matter what you do. I trained for about a year or so at that YMCA, and I was just blowing up, right? At the time, I had a friend of mine named Klaus, and Klaus was about 4 or 5 years older than I am, and Klaus loved working out. I trained with him until the point where he felt like I was actually growing further and bigger than he was. So he kind of got jealous. So he wanted to top me off and go to an actual gym, which was the Olympic gym in Stuttgart, Germany. Now, that gym was about $50 a month. I couldn't afford that. At one point, I told my mom that I will do certain things, certain chores for her if I can go. Just if she could sign me up for that gym. So she agreed to it finally. I went to this Olympic gym in Stuttgart, and I talked to the owner. They saw me coming in, and they said, "Well, you don't look like you're 17. I mean, we can arrange something if you do one thing for me." And the owner said to me, "With your genetic potential, I would like to go ahead and put you, under my wing, so to speak, and teach you what to do in order to get bigger, and sort of like compete for the gym, as using the gym as sort of like me being the athlete for this particular gym." And I was already pretty much developed. I mean, I had some really good size at that point. I was probably about 190, 195. Remember, I'm 17 years old. I wasn't ripped or anything like this, but it was a little bit of a meathead there, at a young age. Um, I joined Olympic Gym, and the owner said to me that I don't have to worry about a membership. I can train for free as long as I really help them promote the gym. So he sent me out to plaster the walls around the city with these neon signs saying Olympic Sports Studio. And I would have a bucket full of glue with me, throw it on there and just plaster everything. That was before social media, right? Now, the the training at that point changed a little bit. Still fairly high volume, 4 or 5 days, 6 days a week sometimes. I loved the gym. I loved being there. I was in this gym as long as I could. Um, it was my social place. I think that's what most gyms are anyway these days, or at least in the '90s, we all have social gatherings in some of the gyms. People have nothing else to do. They want to go to a gym and meet people. But back then in Germany, it was just like my outlet, so to speak, right? So I trained. Now, I meet a guy named Uwe. Uwe Proko was his name. Great name. Uwe comes into the gym. This guy is probably like a 180, 185, but he's fairly lean. He's about 5 years older than I am. I'm about 18 at this point, right? So, um, and we become friends. We work out together. And it was something about, my bench press at that point. Everybody wants to bench press, right? Everybody's talking about, hey, what's your bench like and all that. For me, that was it was like 220. Was it 220? Yeah, 220 was like my max, I think, for like 5 reps or so. Yeah. And so Uwe was working out with me. And the next thing I know is just within weeks, he started getting stronger, right? But he kept on telling me to reduce the volume of training. He said, why do we have to do 5 sets? Let's just do 3 or 2 or whatever, right? He kept on cutting down the volume of the workout and giving me this sort of, for me, it was a guilt trip. I thought, there's no way I'm going to make the same gains. You better be right with this. He was older. I try to listen to everything, any kind of information I could absorb, whether it was from magazines like the Sportrevue or the German Muscle and Fitness, the Sportrevue, or the Sport and Fitness magazine. They had some articles in there. Anything I could absorb. We didn't have the kind of information that America had. We didn't have the kind of gyms, the Gold's gyms and all that stuff. We had the pro bodybuilders. It was very difficult to get that sort of information. So whatever I could get my hands on, I was trying to get as much as I could, read as much as I could about nutrition also and all that. So, well, Uwe helped me quite a lot. He reduced his volume of training. We were only training like this point 4 times a week all of a sudden. I feel like, what am I fucking going to do now, right? So with this 4-day-a-week workout program, we cut our sets probably down to about 8 or 10 sets per muscle group, okay? Working out muscle groups maybe, probably twice a week still. Chest twice a week, legs once a week, back twice a week, calves every other day. They didn't grow and they never grew based on that came later. So the workout program changed me a little bit. I became stronger. Uwe responded to it dramatically, but I think that he probably was using some stuff. I wasn't. The owners of the gym actually asked me if I would want to do something, and then they would sponsor me with it. They would say, look, you got to do this and that in order to compete. And I was like, okay, maybe, yeah, but no, I never did. So I never touched it. I just even, at one point, to be honest with you, I grabbed some of the, he gave it to me as I sold it to someone else. That was back in the days though, Germany, way back. Stuff was like, people were selling at the gym left and right, But I didn't want to have anything to do with it, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I want to do this thing 100% natural. I kept that attitude, and you know, we kind of like competed, and he took off, Mr. Germany competition. Um, he was probably the most ripped individual human being I've ever seen in my life. He dieted down to a point where it was absolutely grotesque looking. And it was inspirational and motivational for me to look at that. I was never able to get to that point, but he certainly, was a diet master, a diet expert, and all that. I don't know what happened to him, but we parted ways at one point, and I had a lecture. There was a lecture at the gym, and this lecture was held by a guy named Andreas Breitenkamp. Now, Andreas Breitenkamp is a very well-known figure in the nutrition and training industry and fitness industry in Germany. He came to the gym with a small little projector thing, and he explained exactly how exercise works, how it affects the body, what intensity levels need to be done, and how it's, all these little elements of that I didn't know anything about. For me back then, it was about getting a bigger arm, so I had to follow Larry Scott's workout, which is not particularly true. But he made sense in all that, and I adapted to it very well. I learned very quickly. He also for the first time, handed out charts. He gave me a workout chart, that I was supposed to take with me to the gym, and it was a whole month worth of working out on it. Like all the little, columns and stuff you fill out, you put in your numbers in, abbreviate it, it was kind of like tedious to do it, but it made sense, because now I knew where I was as far as my workout go, what kind of a progression I'm making. So he was very, very, very much 100% serious about making these changes on the workout charts. Make sure you have that every time you work out. You want to put that in there. So I'm like, okay, here I am with my workout chart now all of a sudden, and I now have a workout that's 4 days a week, 6 to 8 sets total per muscle group, and only once every week, every muscle group, once every week. So that was that time. Now, I was about 19 to 20 years old when that happened. Again, a huge amount of increase and progress is coming in. I was competing already in the Mr. Germany and the Teenage German competitions, and I was doing well. I was never really conditioned enough to win a show, but my size increases were tremendous throughout these years. And the more I refined these workouts by doing actually less than what I started with, the more progress I could see, which kind of like makes sense, doesn't it now? Based on Mentzer's theory, is that as you become stronger, your body is going to, having to adapt to that, is going to have a harder time recovering. So your recovery is going to be more increased or challenged, so to speak. So I want to make sure that you understand that is not just about working out; it's about recovering, right? So we're getting all to that a little bit later, but I want to talk about my systems and what I did. And I had a system at one point, and that was back. I call it Andreas Breitenkamp holistic training principle. It really worked. It really did. I actually found Andreas on Facebook, and I sent him a message saying thank you for back then steering the way for me. Mapping out what I should be doing and helping with that, because it really made a big difference. And then I came to the U.S. and when I came to the U.S., I at first didn't really train much. There was too much going on in my life. I had to try to get myself situated and get a job and work graveyards and odd shifts. I did all kinds of stuff, which is another video. I'll talk about that too as well. But I want to say that it was a very hectic, very stressful life in the beginning, trying to get myself situated in the United States. So my workouts were non-existent, I later on, after the first, let's say, 2 years of kind of trying to like blending into the U.S. and getting myself situated, then I started working out again, hardcore and heavy, and I I went back to this original Andreas Breitenkamp system, which was the 6 to 8 sets per muscle group, once a week. Each muscle group once a week, every 7 days. Chest every 7 days, legs every 7 days, and so forth. Um, it worked pretty well. I was doing muscle mania competitions. In '93, did my first muscle mania competition, and I placed like third, I believe, or fourth. Naturally, no drugs. I competed again the next '95. Now, in '95 is the second time in the muscle mania I competed was when I met Mentzer. There's a clip somewhere on YouTube that shows me at the muscle mania talking to the camera about Mentzer. I think I'm gonna look it up, see if I can find it. But it's basically me outside Venice Gold's Gym, and I'm talking about heavy duty, high intensity training. I meant, working with Mike Mentzer. He trained me a couple of times, a couple of months. And man, when that happened, that was like the biggest increase of muscular gains I've ever had in my life. When we went to like maybe 200 pound bodybuilder, I bust the gain of at least 20, 25 pounds within 3 or 4 months. Training under him, training at Gold's Gym. I paid him $300 a month. I still remember that. And I just grew. And it was not doing any drugs. Even Mike came up to me. He goes, you know, Markus, so what are you taking? What are you on? I'm like, nothing. I was like, well, that's not true, is it? I'm like, no, I'm not doing anything. All right, then I'll get some stuff, get on some stuff, and get really big and become Mr. Olympia. You're gonna be a Mr. Olympia. He goes, I'm like, I don't think that. Honestly, and I knew it from the beginning. I just knew I didn't have the head for that. It takes a very unique individual to compete in the Mr. Olympia competition, and be on that level of competition. I don't think I ever had that. For me, my aspirations were more about bodybuilding, doing some modeling, getting a few gigs for some magazines, personal training down the road. Of course, that started to happen around '95 for me as well. So, that's kind of like where I set my mind to, and I didn't want to do all that. Well, it still worked. So after I met Mentzer for the first time in '95, I continued training high intensity on my own, sometimes with him. He actually worked out with me a couple of times after he had some issues with his neck. He had to go to get some surgery. Then he kind of gave up on it because it was just too hard to deal with. So that was that. But once you do high intensity training, I think, and you get to the point where you got into that level of intensity, there's no reason for you to step back and do more volume again, and it doesn't make sense, unless you're just retarded to begin with. But I consider myself pretty smart, so, and I hope you guys do too. So stick with high intensity in case you ever wonder why you want to go back to this and maybe try something else. And if it works, then do it. And it will work if you do it right. So that's all I can say. Yeah. As far as I remember, that's about it. As far as my workout goes, back in the days, I went from high volume to medium to less, to less, to less. The less I did, the better I got. Hit the like and subscribe button, guys. Please, that really helps a lot. And I appreciate you watching this video. Stay tuned for more. Take it easy. Bye-bye. Gotta sound natural, right? You gotta sound natural. Let's try to be very relaxed about this. Supposed to be relaxed. Talking to you right now. Can you see me? Can you hear me?